With the first pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select
Trophy Chase, Arizona.
with the second pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select
Cody Smith, Houston, Texas. The fantasy draft room is now on the clock.
Welcome to the Fantasy Draft Room. I am Chase. With me, as always, my man Cody. What do we got in store for the people today?
We got a fun one, man. We've been showing you all the Destination Devy mocks pretty much every single week for about the last 2 or 3 months, it feels like now at this point. And we have been running these, since August of last year, I think. Yeah, and so we have finally hit the magical number. We have hit 100 total rookie mocks in the Destination Devy community. Shout out to that man running every single one, Dynasty Barry over there on the Destination Devy Discord. If you want access to those, you can get it and draft with everybody at patreon.com/allgas and get in there, mock draft with us. But we don't have long until we actually have the capital, man. I'm excited. A week out from the draft, our intro is going to have to change here soon. Don't have the same 2 first picks anymore this year, so it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Ready to get into this one.
Yeah, man. No, it's been crazy. Like I know we've been doing mocks every single week, and just being part of those, it feels like it's more. But the fact that it's only 100, I shouldn't say only. The fact that it is 100 is a great milestone to hit. Lots of really good data, and so we can kind of compare things from August, from in season to the off season, and as you said, next week or in a week and a half, we will have final draft capital figured out, and we will know where our final rankings are, final mock drafts we can put out, and I'm ready to roll. So again, patreon.com/allgas, hands down the best fantasy football community to be a part of. And please make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel you are watching right now. And let's kick things off here with round 1 and see what this board looks like. Pretty standard. We got Bijan, A-Rich, Stroud, Young, JSN, Levis, and Gibbs is like the top 7. That's just kind of where we're at right now.
It is where we're at. You know, we think all these quarterbacks are going to get the capital. We've had the rumors start coming out about Hendon Hooker maybe slipping into that back end of the first round. So I don't know if I'm buying that one yet. I don't really see a reason for need for a team to draft him as that first round pick for that 5th-year option, but you know, we do have pretty much the standard here. JSN's the wide receiver 1 consensus across the board. We'll see if it's the same after the NFL draft gives us the draft capital and landing spot. I think it will. Gibbs is the only one, you know, me and my love for Charbonnet, that I really wouldn't probably have here in this top tier itself. But right now, man, 4 quarterbacks, Bijan, mix and match them however you want. We've got our way. I like doing it without knowing the team. Bijan first, and then the 4 quarterbacks. You took JSN a pick higher here, or you know, it had to get JSN taking a pick higher here for you. I don't know if you would have taken Will Levis or not. Maybe touch on that, but you know, the order. A-Rich going off first. I think that's how we have it. I think we personally flip Bryce Young and CJ Stroud at this point, but that Bryce Young, number 1 overall, has picked up a lot of steam over the last week since y'all did this mock.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we have it A-Rich, Young, Stroud, Levis, and a little flip-flop there. But yeah, my JSN pick, I was definitely looking at Will Levis. Unfortunately, there may have been a shameful auto draft. And
hey,
you know,
6
a.m.
That's 6 a.m. for you.
You know, if you leave off with me, I'm the West Coaster. Anytime you leave off with me and we kick resume the draft, there's always a delay, and that delay killed me this time. But you know, in the end, it was between JSN and Will Levis. No big deal for me. This is really where that tier ends, and that's what you mentioned as well. Like, I'm a little bit lower on Jahmyr Gibbs than consensus. I would put him in that top tier only because of community sentiment today. If we get draft capital next week and things shift, if the NFL is concerned, those types of things, that may bump him down. So he's a kind of a waffler for me, where it's like he could be in or out of that group. But right now he's in, and then As you see at 108, we have Hendon Hooker. You mentioned him being a potential back end first kind of guy. And honestly, I'm okay with taking him in the first, but that shows you where this next tier is. If people would even consider taking him 108 just because he's a back end first, to me, just shows it's like, all right, that's the tier gap. If you're going to take him over Addison, Flowers, QJ, Charbonnet, that's your prerogative. I'm not doing that, even if he is a first round pick. Put him at the back of the first for me, but yeah, that's a little bit of a stretch there.
Yeah, I think you got to be playing in the right format, right? And it is one
True.
of these things with these mocks where we don't have everybody's kind of playing it blind. You're just kind of taking who you like, who you really want here. You're not drafting it for your team. You're not drafting it for a format. So in the right formats, I could see Hendon Hooker being vaulted up this high if he does get the draft capital that's being rumored out there for some. I mean, a lot of people still have Hendon Hooker as their quarterback 3 in this class. So, and think he'll be taken 3rd off the board in the top 10. I've seen a lot of people put out their own mock drafts of Hendon Hooker going 6 overall to the Lions. I don't see that personally. For a guy coming off of an ACL while you already have a quarterback there, it seems like a lot of investment for Hendon Hooker, but maybe it happens.
It's out there. Right?
Does feel like it would have to be in the right format for me to do that as it stands right now, though. But hey, week from today, might be seeing a whole different story. So, Hendon Hooker's definitely picked up a lot of buzz, but I do think, as you said, it signifies how great that tier gap is between this top either 6 or 7 for us. You can take it either way. And in all of these back end first, we have this group of wide receivers that we don't really see a major difference in between any of them. I don't think there's just a large lump of them, and wherever the draft capital and landing spot tell us, it's probably going to shift the consensus across the community by a pretty large amount. I do love me some Zach Charbonnet at 112. That is beautiful. I probably would have been taking him 108, 109 in this draft. So I think that's some good value on Zach Charbonnet. But anything else on this kind of second tier that we see in the first back into the first round?
I'm going to pull it up here for round 2 as we go through this, just because I feel like the tier gap ends at the 2-1 with Josh Downs, in my opinion. That's where I have it. I think there's a difference between Downs and Hyatt. And it seems like if there's going to be some first round wide receivers, Addison, Flowers, QJ, and Downs. I know Hyatt's been in there. He's been out of there. There's been some rumors of him being a first round pick, even being the first wide receiver taken. So that would change things for me if he is, in fact, the first wide receiver taken. But right now, I would tier gap it at that tier 2 for me is going to be that 2-1. And yeah, like there's not a big difference. It's going to be that draft capital and landing spot for those wide receivers. Charbonnet is for us clearly, a tier different from this other gap of wide receivers. So, or other gap of running backs. And yeah, I feel like that's the right spot to put it in here. Just to kind of tell everybody this is linear. This draft is linear. So we have Downs, Hyatt, Tillman. Then we have a bunch of running backs and tight ends with Tajay Spears, Kendre Miller, Roshan Johnson. Finally get Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid back to back in the back half of the second, followed by Tank, A-Chain, Evans, and Abanikanda. So yeah, all the same, right? Like
it's the running back, kind of like how we were looking at that, Addison all the way through Tillman here. I think Tillman's a little bit different. Tillman and Hyatt are maybe a little bit lower for me personally and us personally, but kind of how those wide receivers are all the same. All of these second round running backs are the same, minus one that we don't like as much. So this is again, it's just a lot of a draft capital and landing spot situation for me. I don't have a major gap in between any of these running backs that we're seeing come off the board here in the second round. The only thing that I think is really kind of interesting here is it feels like Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid are probably a little bit lower than normally they would be in consensus. Sometimes you see them all the way up in the first round. I think in our Destination Devy mocks, we have seen them start to slip, and this is probably the lowest I've seen it go without a tight end off the board. Do you think that's just because we're assuming this is maybe like a standard format and nobody really wants to draft the first tight end off the board whenever you don't really have to and they aren't really that much of a factor for your team?
Yeah, there's no actual, as you mentioned, there's no actual format outline for these drafts. So you basically assume standard or whatever your standard league is. I know for most of the leagues that I play in, the standard is 1.5 tight end premium, and I do play in a lot of 1.75, 2.0, 2 tight end, things like that, where the tight end value increases significantly. But even at 1.5 for the average league, I would bump them up a few spots here. I would probably take them ahead of Tillman and Spears, maybe, Kendre. Like,
It's
it's
hard to
not
take
a
a first rounder. It's hard to take a first round shot on a tight end in
yeah.
one of those type of leagues. I do think 1.5, you're probably looking, if they get the first round draft capital and they get like the Green Bay spot, the Chargers spot, a couple of those really good landing
Cowboys,
spots,
yeah.
Cowboys as well in there. I think you're probably looking at like 2.3, 2.4 in my opinion, but even that might be a little high.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really how the rest of not only the tight ends shake out, but the rest of the draft class. As we've talked about over and over, if you've listened to this channel, we've talked about this range of player, like really from the 2-2 all the way through the third round, as we'll pull it up here in a minute. There's really not a big gap in the players because we don't know what those landing spots are. If we get 6 tight ends in the first 2 rounds, like, I'm okay missing out on Michael Mayer. I'm okay with it. I'll take a shot on Kincaid or Laporta or Musgrave. Like, there's a lot of tight ends in this class that could, have really good fantasy value for us. So if I have a shot at a different tier of running back or a different tier of wide receiver, then I'm going to take that pick over the tight ends and just wait till the third round here. And then same thing with the running backs. Like, once this draft capital shakes out, you talked about it off air, really half of these guys in the second round are not going to get the capital that we want or need to make them of value at all. We're going to have a tier gap here in the mid-second.
I really think you are, because as much as I like all of these profiles, I know I won't like some nearly as much once they go in the 5th round and they're behind a Austin Eckler or something. Like, if Austin Eckler decides to go back and he settles back in the Chargers offense and you've got Zach Evans behind him, like, okay, I don't, I'm okay. Even some of the guys I do like, I mean, Zach Evans is probably the name that stuck out to me as, just not liking as much, but like Bigsby goes behind him and like the 4th or 5th round. I don't really care, like, I think he'll take a little bit of that, first running back workload, but there's going to be a lot of these guys that just don't feel nearly as good as their profile suggests right now because of how saturated the running back market is. And then you're also going to have the worrisome fear of, like, your Fournette, if Dalvin Cook and Mixon do get cut, those guys landing elsewhere. You've got Zeke still out there who's going to get paid by somebody just to run the ball because he's a name value for their team. It's a gross running back market right now. And as much as I really do think it's such a deep class with so many good profiles in it, once we put draft capital and landing spot to it, probably half of them go away. And same thing with wide receiver. You're looking at like 3rd round wide receivers then that are looking at like wide receiver 3 upside. And you're like, why? There's no point almost of me even taking this guy in a lineup league.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly where it's at. I'm going to pull up the 3rd round here so you can see kind of the rest. Where we drew the line is that 3-5. We have Sean Tucker, Darnell Washington, Luke Musgrave. Both of those we've seen projected either 1st round or 2nd round tight ends. Marvin Mims and then Chase Brown, and then you can pretty much tier gap it from there. And then for me, it's the rest. Like, I don't even care if McBride magically gets draft capital, or Eric Gray, anyone at all, Deneric Prince, any of these guys get draft capital, we'll revisit it and we can move them up and down and around. But Chase Brown, we can see getting draft capital and pushing himself into the 2nd round. Sean Tucker, same type of thing. And I think Booty, he's fallen off a cliff for us and in the NFL in general. So Mims pretty much belongs in that. I mean, he could go as high as where Tillman went here. In the end, with draft capital associated, we could see any of this 2-1, 2-2, all the way to the 3-5 switch flip-flop because of draft capital. And if you've listened to anything we've been saying, this is exactly what we've been telling you for months. We're just not going to be happy about what that's 24, 29 guys landing spots. That is not going to happen. So I think we're going to start seeing the running backs that we like that do get draft capital push themselves up into the early second here. And wide receivers, it's kind of hope they get a good landing spot. Like maybe Mims goes somewhere that we like.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mims. It's difficult because you see some like mock drafts come out, and then he's like third round to the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, okay, like I get that he's the guy with the landing spot and the high powered offense, and probably he's one of the guys that I would actually be willing to take in like the third round. But man, like it's hard to take that wide receiver 3 in a centralized offense around AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. That doesn't have a super high passing floor either. Yeah, like you're mentioning, man, like just so many of these picks are going to go by the wayside. As much as I do think this is such a deep class for the profile, really like 2-6 in terms of just like the normal drafts where we put the capital to it. I think that's probably going to be around where your cutoff is. A second one, maybe it gets to like the back end of the second. And then you have a couple guys sneak into the third round that you're actually excited about. But I think you're just going to be stabbing at absolute darts whenever you get past that. Like 6th round running backs, you're going to be looking at back of day 2 wide receivers. Sometimes the format can help. I know we're gonna be breaking down a mock here soon where the format is pretty significant for like tight ends and the best ball format and some other things that go along with it. That it makes it look very good. But man, whenever really like you're at the back of the third and you're taking the shot on Eric Gray, Evan Hull, Tyler Scott, it doesn't feel very good, man. If I can move up at all into that, like from the back end of the second into the top end of the second, I want to move up and consolidate a lot of these picks if I don't need the depth desperately on my teams right now.
Yeah, everything is definitely team dependent, league dependent. Things like that are going to matter, as you mentioned. If there's a tight end premium of 175 or more, or you're in a start 2 tight end, you are going to see at least Darnell Washington and Luke Musgrave going in the second round, no doubt about it. And you'll probably see Mayer in the first, Kincaid potentially in the first, or at least close to that. Actually, they should probably be in there because they're most likely going to be first rounders or real close to that. And it seems like those 2 are the big names right now. Luke Musgrave just unproven despite the athleticism. Darnell Washington might be more of a blocker, and so it's going to be dependent on those things. So even if you push those 4 up into the second round and above, you're still looking at like maybe the 2-6, 2-7, 2-8. Like that's pretty much it. And if I can find a way to get into the early second, back into the first, top 6, like I'm looking at those tier gaps and trying to figure out where I want to maneuver. If I have the 108, I'm happy to trade back a few picks. And I feel like these are going to be moves you have to make now if you're trying to move up into like the second range. Like you may not have to do the first rounder stuff yet, but I feel like in the second round range, you might want to identify that gap now and try to move a second and a third and see if you can get yourself into the first half of that second round.
Yeah, I think you're right about making the moves preemptively. I never want to trade on the clock. I know a lot of people will say the best deal will always come to you while you're on the clock because the person really wants the pick. I don't think that's the case because as soon as you say, hey, I don't want this pick, I'm putting it on the block, you lose all leverage. Like if somebody's jumping up to you unprovoked and they want that player, maybe you have the leverage in that situation. But I haven't seen that in my drafts really ever play out that way. And talking about all those preemptive moves, I did just do the co-guest star show with Scott Connor on the Destination Dynasty pod on the Destination Devy radio feed. So go check that one out. It's the most recent one that dropped on Monday, I believe. So go check that one out. Adam was also talking about the 101 and what he would do with the 101. A lot of moves that you could potentially do to get out of the 101, who you're taking at the 101 with Scott as well. So really, really good pod. definitely encourage you all to look at that one if you are trying to make some last minute preemptive moves, like I am in a couple of leagues because I've been putting it off for a little bit. So there's a lot of moves to be made, but getting back into this back end of the third round, we've got past the tier break where we said Chase Brown was at the 3-5. We got the Keyshawn Booty, Evan Hull, Tucker Kraft, Jonathan Mingo, Eric Gray, Tyler Scott, Dwayne McBride. And the one that I really want to highlight here that I've seen just wild differently takes of views on, kind of want to get your opinion on Dwayne McBride. I've seen some people still to this day have him as the running back 3 in the class and going in like the third, mocking him in the third round. And then some people mocking him in like round 7. Like, I have no idea what to do with Dwayne McBride.
I like his size. Outside of that, there's nothing about him that just screams special talent. We don't know what his pass catching is. I think it was Mel Kiper apparently said he's a really good pass catcher.
What information he has to say it, I don't know. But
maybe he held a one-on-one interview with him and threw some balls. Old Kiper's out there throwing balls to Dwayne McBride in the flat, trying to. Yeah, I don't freaking know. And neither does he. I think that's the bigger point. Is like no one really knows what his full profile is. He seems like he's a good runner, but he's no one in this class that I'm just like excited about. I put him in there with the Evan Hulls, the Eric Grays. If he happens to get third round draft capital and go to a good landing spot, I'll take him higher. I don't see a world unless he goes in the second round. I don't see a world in which I consider taking him in the second round of rookie drafts.
I mean,
that would be
if he goes round 3, I think it's in contention. But
you consider it?
Yeah, maybe it'd have to be a little bit of right format that has a point per carry on it, because, like you said, I'm not even going to begin to speculate about his receiving profile. 5 catches on 10 targets during his time in college, I believe
his career.
His entire collegiate career was 5 catches on 10 targets, I believe. So who knows? I think a lot of people look at the production profile on the ground as him as just a rusher and say it is really, really good. I mean, I forget how many touchdowns he had. I think it was like 19 or something that he had, but he's playing at UAB. Like, the competition level that he's playing against is not very good. And whenever he did play against some good competition like LSU, he got stuffed all game long. Now, that's a little bit because his offensive line was getting ran back into him as well. I think he's a good runner, but I just don't know how much more there is than that. I'd much rather take a shot on Evan Hull, who has a really, really good receiving profile in the third round. As long as he's getting the as long as he's getting the draft capital even before the draft, like, I'd much rather just take my shot on even an Evan Hull, who I don't ever see going before like round 5 in mock drafts right now, than Dwayne McBride, just because I like the profile a lot more.
I wanted to pull up what NFL.com had on him, because I thought he came in a little bit smaller than I anticipated, or what we thought he was going to be. He did. He actually was 209, 5'10". According to Lance Zierlein, has his NFL comparison as Marlon Mack. And so a good backup with potential to develop into a starter based on what he has seen as well. Yeah, I mean, definitely good college production again, but it's at UAB, those types of things.
I think your upside's like Brian Robinson. Like, that's what I kind of have his upside as, but Brian Robinson's much bigger than the 210 body and can pound up the middle much.
He would need it to be
better.
perfect situation for him to land into opportunity. And
the difference between Mo Ibrahim and Dwayne McBride isn't anything for me.
No.
Except for age and a torn Achilles, which is a major difference.
Outside of that, their actual ability.
Right.
Well, let's pull up this fourth round here, since we're talking about Mo Ibrahim. I'm pretty sure he went here. He didn't get drafted. All right. So we have our fourth round. Again, it is linear. So we have Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice in the fourth, Kenny McIntosh, your guy, A.T. Perry, the 10.0 RAS score in Zach Kuntz. And then we have Deneric Prince, Tyon Evans, Aiden O'Connell, Sam Laporta, Bennett, Mallory, Chris Rod. Again, all guys depending on draft capital landing spot. Laporta being this low is actually kind of crazy. I mean, I shouldn't say it's crazy. For the format, it makes sense, but it seems like he's been getting drafted in second rounds of NFL drafts. So he's been usually going in third rounds of rookie drafts. So him almost falling out of the mock completely is a little scary.
Yeah, I think that's probably it's probably a little low, but you know, just the mock, you're wanting to take some shots here in the fourth round, more than likely, where you know you're just taking some stabs at some guys. Interesting, you're taking Kuntz over Sam Laporta here, actually.
As soon as I made the pick, I was like, I don't know what I did there. So, to my defense and to everyone out there, if you're doing rookie drafts right after the NFL draft, Sam Laporta is buried in sleeper. I assumed he was gone.
It's crazy. I have actually done that. I've done that. I've done that same exact thing, man. Sam Laporta, for some reason, like literally whenever you get to like the 999 on sleeper ADP,
yep,
just all the way down the board. It is a thing. Like pay attention to your draft boards, man. Like I know you're doing a lot. You know, you're looking at this a lot closer if it's not just a mock, and so you'd have your own board on the side and everything, your own rankings listed out. But seriously, if you just go in there and you're like, oh, it's just a fourth round pick, it's not going to matter, and then you miss on Sam Laporta over Zach Kuntz. I mean, I like Zach Kuntz, but
yeah.
I love the profile of Sam Laporta a lot more just because of the school that he's playing at. He's an Iowa tight end compared to playing at Old Dominion. I don't care what the RAS score is for that one. I'll take the guy who's playing at Iowa as long as he's relatively athletic, which Sam Laporta is. So, yeah, I mean, it's fourth round in a mock, but just make sure whenever you're actually on the clock, to everybody out there, check those sleeper ADPs, because we will have drafts that are kicking off. I mean, our first draft's kicking off on Sunday, right after the draft. So you you won't have ADP to tell you what you're doing. You know, you've got to make informed choices, even all the way down to your fourth round picks, making informed choices to make sure you're getting the best, you know, bang for your buck available. I mean, Bo Ibrahim being on waivers, I'm probably adding him over like 5 guys on the end of my rosters in some leagues. So make sure that you're grinding. I know it doesn't sound like much to be taking these fourth round guys. We're probably spending maybe a bit too long on them, but this is where you can grind edges so often in your leagues, especially the ones that aren't as active. Grind those edges, make those fourth round picks informatively. If there's any running backs here, man, that have any shot at starting, you think ever, I'm probably taking him over the wide receivers. I'll take my AT Perry because he's my boy and I love him. But running backs, tight ends in the right formats, and quarterbacks, try to fill it out with that, because those are the guys that will actually get you some net return more than likely.
And you did mention the fact that we do have our first one. Like, I think we have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Like, we have rookie drafts kicking off. I've already finished a rookie draft. I think 2 weeks ago as well, pre NFL draft. So we have that stuff going on. And again, subscribe to the channel. We will be dropping mocks as soon as we have information available on these landing spots, so that you can be prepared for your rookie drafts whenever they may be. We are here to help as well. So please comment down below and hit us up on Twitter. You can see our Twitter handles down below, our faces here as well. Anything else you want to touch on this draft before we wrap out?
No, I don't think I got anything else on this draft. I mean, you can see the names at the top if you're actually listening and, you know, viewing to it instead of just having it in your pocket. I mean, this is a draft of heavy hitters. So if you want to take some notes on these guys, I mean, we've got pretty much the whole Destination Devy content creation crew here, outside of a couple. So a lot of heavy hitters, a lot of people who are really, really sharp. I know we didn't talk about every single pick and, you know, which one's going above the other one, because it is pre-draft at this point. If you're having some drafts the rest of this week, you know, this is what you want to use, though, probably. I mean, these are the sharpest people that I know personally in the space. So
yeah, for sure.
Look at what these guys are doing. Ask us in the Destination Devy Discord. Ask us in the comments here. We'll be tapped in definitely throughout all of the next week. And yeah, like you said, we'll be dropping content almost as soon as the draft ends. I think probably latest we're trying to get anything out is by Monday, maybe even a live showing. We'll see what happens. We got to work through some things. We'll figure it out, but we'll be getting a lot of post draft content to y'all, and very, very much so looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Again, subscribe. Make sure you join the Patreon at patreon.com/allgas to be part of Destination Devy. So you can do these mock drafts with Mike and Adam of 4D, with Ray and Jay Rich, as you see here as well. We have Scott in here. Every single member that could have joined from the DD content creation crew who does podcast. Jordan Backus has his Devy episode dropping on Tuesdays. Fantasy Jeans of the Off the Line podcast that drops on Thursday. And congratulations to him on having a new baby boy join the Destination Devy crew. So he just had a baby boy today. And then we even have Eric of America's Game, who with him and Scott Connor as well on Saturdays. We got it all. We got them all here.
Every single day we got content dropping. And if we don't have content dropping for some reason, I think there's Sunday. I don't think Sunday's an open day, but you know what we do? We're in the Destination Devy Heisman chat and we're talking stuff in there. So if you want content every day, every hour of the day, that's the place to be. Patreon.com/allgas.
And I didn't even plug our own stuff that we drop on Wednesday. The Overreaction podcast, we drop there on Wednesdays. So yeah, we're filling it out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here in the Fantasy Draft Room.